So while we're looking at these pictures, somebody wanted to know, how are you structurally set up as an LLC, a sole proprietor? How did you all decide to do that and why?
Yes, we are set up as a sole proprietor. We just made a decision to do it that way.
And then I'm sure you got insurance then, with your farm. And we're going
Okay,
to
you were breaking up. What did you say?
I said we're going to, and so you have insurance through Farm Bureau.
Yes, oh yes, we have insurance through Farm Bureau. Liability insurance as well as farm insurance, and all of our property and buildings and everything is with Farm Bureau.
Oh, great.
And then what is the size of your shed again? Somebody didn't catch what you had said.
Okay, were they asking questions during the presentation? No, they weren't. You're just asking questions now. Okay.
Yeah.
The size of the shed is a 40 by 100. The extension on the back with the back picnic tables is about another 30 feet.
Okay. And if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat or in the Q&A and answer that. So how has the weather been? Are you in a drought right now? We just finally broke it today.
Right. We just broke it a few minutes ago. I was worried that the thunderstorm was going to happen during this meeting because it got pretty intense here. We tend to be in a very dry valley. So as the surrounding areas are getting rain, we are not. We just kind of watch it go around us, which can get very discouraging.
Okay. So what size are your pumpkins about now, to know and when to have them ready by the time you want them ready?
We learned years ago with trial and error, we don't plant the pumpkins too soon because our market peaks at the end of September and all of October. Early on when we started out, we were wanting to grow to have pumpkins ready Labor Day weekend for sales in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. That market's no longer there, so we don't plant as early as we usually did. Our pumpkins are just vining out right now.
And tell us the variety. I mean, how many pumpkins will you have? How large is your patch? And then, how many different varieties do you plant?
There's a 24-acre patch. We have all varieties from the little baby boos and the Jack B. Littles that you hold in your hand up to the ones that you can't pick up that are jack-o'-lantern size. And we have all the stages in between. Different companies will name the same pumpkin by a different name. We do a lot of field trip pumpkins with the long 6-7 inch stems. That's typically what we use for our educational field trips, and we do sell a lot of those along with the jack-o'-lantern size. Did that answer?
Talk about a school. Yeah. So talk about a school group that would come. Mm-hmm. What would their visit look like?
Yeah, our school group, and I started this back at the very beginning of time with the educational field trips. I do 4 educational centers basically, and then there's slight variations to that depending on the age group and how long the class wants to stay. But I usually, or what we do is focus on the 4 harvests of fall. We have a pumpkin classroom where we talk about pumpkins and squash, and the kids get to pick a pumpkin and take it home. Indian Corn Village, one of my favorite places. The kids are sitting among stalks of Indian corn, and we talk about how the corn grows, and they actually physically shuck the ear of corn. So they get the concept of where the corn's coming from. Then find a gourd in a haystack. We talk about the gourds and how they dry, what they're used to make out of gourds, and they get to jump in. It's the philosophy of finding a needle in a haystack. So they jump in there and find a gourd. They get to keep the gourd. And then the 4th center had been honey for a number of years. The honey population and the availability of honey is being not good. So we now do a milk presentation. We shake and make butter, and they do some activities with the milk. So that's basically the 4 centers that the groups will go through.
And how many schools do you serve?
We get from all surrounding 9 counties, including our local county, which is Greene County, and they participate from all over. We even have a group that comes out of Madison County, North Carolina, that makes an annual trip here, and they pretty much spend all day with us.
So some people want to know, what changes are you going to make for COVID? How are you going to handle this if what's going on in the schools?
We are going to offer, I'm always pretty open-minded with any of the teachers or the organizations. Of course, I'm not setting myself on one particular thing right now because things are changing so fast as they're trying to even get open. You know, I hope that if groups or schools want the pumpkins brought to them, we'll definitely bring the pumpkins to them. And as we see how this plays out, I'm sure they're not going to allow anybody in the facilities or on the property, but hopefully try to encourage pumpkins brought to the schools and encourage families to come here during our operating hours. And we're going to pretty much focus again back to the basics of being the farmer that grows the pumpkins and has everything, kind of like we were focusing on in the springtime, and people were eager to come to the farm to get the plants in the springtime.
So what about your corn maze? How will you do that?
We will social distance that. Of course, our corn maze is 24 acres, so they can socially distance pretty good down there. I haven't run the numbers as to how many we can have in a maze at the same time. Again, I'm just waiting to see how things play out these next couple of months, and we can definitely spread out. We have a huge cotton wagon. We take people to the maze, so that won't be any problem in spreading people out on the cotton wagon.
So somebody, speaking of your classes, that your 4 different topics,
Mm-hmm.
is that all done in one class, or they come for just that one topic? Or
You can be with the 4 educational centers. No, when they
yeah,
come, they go, when a class comes, like say there's a school of 100 kids and they're in 4 different classes. Each classroom will go through each of the 4 centers. We rotate them. And it's always in a small group setting.
okay.
Usually one class will participate at one center at a time. Then we move around.
So do you have people that help teach, or are they concurrently going on, or they just
Right. There's someone in each, what we call the centers. There's someone in each center that will conduct the 10-minute educational part of it, and then at each center the kids get to get something. There's a craft bag that they're given at the beginning of the day with their names on it, and they're responsible for keeping up with it. And then each center, they will be put their pumpkin or their gourd or their Indian corn or their milk pencil in that
okay.
craft bag. Mm-hmm.
And have you ever kept count in the last few years of the total number of people that are coming to everything on the farm? You said thousands, but
Thousands. Yeah, thousands. And I was thinking of that after you asked me that. Probably 25,000 people
goodness.
that visit for some capacity. Because when you have educational field trips, you have a lot of parents. There's
Right.
days that we have educational field trips here that we can't park another vehicle.
Wow. Okay. So, and you have open to individual groups to do activities, churches or something like that?
They come and do private parties, which again, we started this at the beginning of our, when the shed was built. So yes, they come to private parties, church groups, youth groups. The activities we have at that time is the Hillbilly Scoot. The most popular activity on the farm during non-school time is decorating the pumpkin. That is being a tradition for people that have come, and they're now bringing their kids back to decorate the pumpkin. And of course, the hayride and the corn maze.
Okay. Great. All right. I don't see any other questions. Denise had asked about registering for a field study, but I wasn't quite sure, Denise, what you meant with that. If you were talking about the field school, and if so, we'll talk about that in a moment. But Vera Ann, thank you so much for the great tour, and we recommend everybody come see you in the fall.
Well, okay, it won't be as cluttery looking as it did on the video. It's hard to keep an open barn pretty clean this time of year.
Right. And plus it'll all be filled with lots of goodies.
Oh, I see a comment that says, "What is the hillbilly scoop?" Yeah,
Yeah. What
you
is
want me to
that?
answer that?
Yeah, go
It's
ahead.
it's a slide on the top of a hill, and the people walk up there and they slide down, either body slide or slide on a sack.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I've never went down it all these years, so I just watched people do it.
Okay. Well, great. And thank you so much for joining us. And we appreciate you being on here as a speaker, and definitely Vera Ann has been a leader in the state in getting agritourism where it is today, both with Farm Bureau, who we're going to hear next, but also just in helping TDA figure out, how this should happen in our state. So we're very appreciative to all the work you did, Vera Ann, early on with agritourism and the association you started.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure, and you have two other great speakers that are very respectful for. Stephen has come on with Farm Bureau and has been around, and of course Megan was with me from the beginning when we started the Agritourism Association. She knows way more than I do.
Okay.